Hi everybody, I'm Susan Mulvihill. Well, I had fully intended to start this second video of the 2024 garden season out in the garden so you could see the transformation that has taken place since you last saw me a week ago. But the weather is disgusting out there, and I decided, today's topic is perfect for doing indoors, so I'm just going to stay put. So what is the topic? Well, today I want to show you the different types of vegetables and flowers that we're going to grow this year. And I also want to share a simple free tool that you can use to keep yourself on track for the different types of plants you want to grow this year. So here's a peek at the garden from my office window. The wind is just howling. You're also hearing some wind chimes blowing around. And you can see there's a few inches of snow on the garden, so it looks quite different. And I should point out that that arbor you're looking at, when you walk through there, that's where the vegetable garden is, and you can see the top of the greenhouse on the right. But it's definitely nasty weather out there. It's currently about 32 degrees, so the snow is melting a little bit, but our temperatures are going to be dropping into the sub-zero range in the next few days. So I think I'm definitely staying indoors. Now, occasionally you're going to see the variety name on the screen with an AAS after it. And that stands for All America Selections. And I wanted to explain what that is real quickly so you're aware of it, because there are so many wonderful varieties of vegetables and flowers that are All America Selections winners. So according to their website, All America Selections is an independent, nonprofit organization that tests new, never-before-sold varieties for the home gardener. After a season of anonymous trialing by volunteer horticulture professionals, only the top garden performers are given the AAS Winner Award designation for their superior performance. We are going to be growing quite a few All America Selections winners this year, so I'll be sure to note which ones those are in the slideshow that's coming up. This is a new to us variety of arugula called Esme. And the reason I chose it is because it said it had more of a nutty flavor rather than a spicy one. And I thought, well, that sounds intriguing. We love basil, especially for making pesto, but also for all different kinds of cooking. And I have consistently had great luck with Genovese, so that's the one I'm going to grow this year. This will be my third year of growing Vortex pole beans. The reason I originally chose this variety is because it is considered quite heat tolerant, and since our summers have been getting hotter, I knew I needed to try something new. And this has performed like you wouldn't believe. It is so productive, and they have really long pods that stay tender, and so you really get a lot of bang for your buck. I'm growing two varieties of beets, and unfortunately the seed packet on the right doesn't have a photo. But on the left is cylindrical, sometimes it's referred to as cylindra, and you can see it's got an oblong root. You really get a lot of root for each plant. And of course the greens are super tasty, so you get to harvest everything. I've grown this for years and I'm very happy with it. The one on the right is Golden Detroit beet. This is one I've grown before, and it is very tasty. It's got kind of a more mellow taste, and of course the beautiful golden root. If you followed my videos and social media posts about Bellstar broccoli last year, I don't even need to introduce it or explain why I love this. Last year was my first year of growing it. I have never harvested such large heads, and of course once you harvest the primary head on a broccoli plant, then you start getting the side shoots, which are secondary heads. Well, the side shoots were nearly as large as the primary heads. So yeah, I am absolutely sold on Bellstar. It is fantastic. I'm actually going to grow 3 varieties of carrots this year, but I just realized the third one hasn't arrived in the mail yet. But I'm going to grow short stuff and scarlet nantes. Both of these were excellent performers in last year's garden. And then the brand new one is Yaya. I have never grown it before, but it was highly recommended from one of my followers on social media. And I thought, you know, it's always good to try new things. So I'm excited to have that one in the garden this year. I've been growing our own celery in the garden each year for a very long time. And I just love it because you harvest exactly what you need from the plants and you let them keep growing and producing. Rather than buying celery in the store, putting it in your refrigerator, maybe using it for tuna sandwiches or something, and then forgetting about the rest, and then it turns into a rotten, mushy mess. So that's why I grow celery. And for years I grew tango. But last year, for the first time, I grew Utah, and it is especially good for northern climates, and I was much more impressed with it, I have to tell you. I enjoy growing Swiss chard every year because it is so delicious, and I especially like the varieties that include lots of different colors of leaf stalks because they're just so beautiful both in the garden and on your plate. So in this case, from Renee's Gardens, I have chosen Garden Rainbow. It's really easy to grow. Next up is corn, and you might think that Bill and I are in a rut, but we have been growing Sweetness Bicolor from Ed Hume Seeds for ages, and we just can't bring ourselves to try a new variety because this one is just so good. Now here's another packet that doesn't have a photo, darn it. But I grew mini-me cucumbers last year and I was really impressed with them. The cucumbers are a bit on the smaller size, but not that much. They're very flavorful and very crunchy, just the way you want a cucumber to be. I grew epic hybrid eggplants in my greenstock vertical garden for the first time last year, and we were very impressed with them. They're very productive, a really nice size, and we really enjoyed cooking with them. Here's another unusual thing, mainly for us, but I don't think a lot of gardeners grow ground cherries. And the variety that we're going to grow is New Hanover. The description said that they are quite sweet. And I have to tell you, when we were up in Quebec last fall, there were a few things that were served with the ground cherries on the side, and we thought, wow, these are really tasty. So we decided, let's give them a try this year. Even though it doesn't look like it, I'm actually growing 3 different varieties of lettuce this year. The first is Butter Crunch, and I think most folks are familiar with it. It's got really nice crunchy leaves, very nice in salads. The second is Red Romaine, which looks so pretty with the red leaves in a salad. And the third and most notable one is Bauer. Bauer is an All-America Selections winner. The heads are huge. It is kind of a leaf lettuce, but a very bushy head of lettuce. And I cannot believe how much lettuce we harvested from the plants last year. So I definitely recommend this one. Onions are a vegetable that Bill loves growing every year. So he is growing Ailsa Craig, Akatama Salad Red, and Red of Florence. We've grown the Red of Florence before and been very happy with it, but the other 2 are new to us. We have grown Bopak Pak Choi in the past and been very happy with it, but it's always fun to try new varieties, right? So we decided to try Green Jewel from Renee's Garden Seeds, and we'll see how it does. We're going to grow Harris Model parsnips again this year. We grew them last year. They did really well. They are great in casseroles and other types of main dishes. As you can probably guess by the huge size of this seed packet, this is our favorite pea to grow. This is Green Arrow, and it is a shelling pea. It is so reliable and so productive. We just love it. And the unusual thing is that I start them every year in rain gutters. Now, a lot of you will be familiar with this because I've shot videos on it every year for the past several years. And you can watch a video about it if you're not familiar with it by going to my YouTube channel if you're not there already and searching on the words gutter peas. But I will definitely talk about it again this year so you can see what it's all about. Let's talk peppers for a moment. Bill absolutely loves growing them and he truly excels at it. He grows both sweet and hot peppers, so I wanted to show you the varieties of the sweet ones first and then the hot ones. So you can see here is Marconi Rosso, and you can see from the illustration that they're an elongated type of a sweet pepper. They have thick walls, they're very sweet, and he has grown them every year for several years because they're so reliable and productive. The other sweet varieties that he's growing are Pretty and Sweet, Chili Pie, Dragonfly, Picnic Red, and Red Impact. Yeah, that's a lot of peppers. For hot peppers, he's growing Biquinho, and Biquinho means little beak in Portuguese. Last year he grew these. They're very colorful, and he pickled them and said they were absolutely delicious. I'm not a hot pepper eater. Then there's early jalapeno. He's grown those for a few years and very happy with them. They're super productive. A new variety for him is Traveler Strain Pepper, which is a type of jalapeno, and Lemon Spice Jalapeno. And then I have photos of two more that are All America Selections winners, Buffy and Quickfire. As far as radishes go, we are growing Purple Plum. And you know, if you are brand new to gardening or you're trying to get your kids interested in gardening, radishes are great to grow because they grow very quickly. So it's like almost instant reward. Now there are two types of pumpkins I'm growing this year. On the left is a great pie pumpkin called New England Pie. And the one on the right, even though it says squash, it's actually a pumpkin called Big Macs. And I haven't announced it yet, but I am going to host an online pumpkin growing contest this year. So stay tuned for details on that. Here's another thing that Bill enjoys growing, and that is shallots. So the variety is called Zebrun. And if I remember correctly, that means chicken thighs. And that's really what they look like. They're quite large, easy to grow, and really are tasty. I enjoy growing spinach, and I saw this new variety from High Mowing Organic Seeds called Giant Winter Spinach, and I thought that would be fun to grow. So that'll be out in our garden this year. Everybody grows zucchini in their gardens, right? Well, this is our new favorite. It's Cocozelle. I think this is going to be our third year of growing it. We really like it. I really enjoy growing winter squash. And you know, we have been roasting some from last year's crop every so often, and it is such a treat. So this year's lineup includes Autumn Frost, Burpee's Butterbush Butternut Squash. It's a smaller butternut that doesn't take up as much room in the garden and doesn't take as long to reach maturity. Last year was my first year of growing it, and I'm very impressed with it. We're also going to grow Potimarron squash. That's one that I've grown a few years now, and it always comes through for me. And then the last one is a new All America Selections winner called Sweet Jade, and it's a kabocha squash. Bill and I both have fun growing tomatoes. And I typically grow the paste tomatoes, which are the larger tomatoes that are perfect for making things like tomato sauce, salsa, and ketchup, because it's less juicy, so it's nice and thick when you make the sauces. And Bill likes to grow the smaller grape tomatoes, mainly for making fresh salsa. So I'm going to show you what I'm growing, and then I'll show you what he's growing. So the first one here is Chef's Choice Orange. That is a beefsteak tomato, beautiful orange color, really large fruits, very productive, and best of all, it is an All-America Selections winner from a few years ago. Directly below it is Supremo. I grew that last year for the first time as a paste tomato, and I was very impressed with that variety. On the right is a dwarf tomato plant called Orange Hat. It's got little orange colored fruits, as you can see. It's definitely not for making paste or anything or sauces. It's actually just for popping in your mouth. And I grew that in the greenstock planter last year, and it was just great. Now I have a new paste type of tomato that I'm going to grow this year that's called Blue Beach, and it has not arrived yet, but a friend of mine who's a market gardener and who grows and sells a lot of tomatoes recommended it to me because apparently it is far less susceptible to developing blossom end rot. And I thought, that's all I need to hear. I'm going to give it a try. So that'll be something also that's new. Bill is going to be growing 3 varieties of grape tomatoes, and we're still waiting for a packet of those to arrive. But you can see we've got packets here for Fantastico and Valentine. And then the one that he's waiting on is Pandarino. And last but not least is watermelon. I'm going to grow Alibaba again. I grew it last year in our hoop house for the first time ever, and it did relatively well, but I decided it probably was too hot in there, and so I am going to grow it out in the main part of the garden in a raised bed and see how they do this year. In theory, they can produce up to 30-pound watermelons, which is impressive. Mine were maybe about like 6 or 7 pounds when I finally picked them, but I wanted to give it another chance and just see what size I get and how well they grow. So I'll certainly be reporting back on that. Okay, I know that was a lot of information, and I promise that the flower section will go by much more quickly. But before we proceed with that, I had a couple of things I wanted to show you on my website that will help you plan your seed starting. So first of all, if you go to susansinthegarden.com and you go to the guides menu, go all the way down almost to the bottom where it says Susan's Garden 2024. I mentioned this in last week's video, but I didn't technically go to it. So here is a chart showing all of the vegetables and varieties that we're growing. And what I really wanted to point out is there is a column that has seed sources for all of the seeds that I have mentioned today. So this is a great place to look if you're trying to figure out where to get them. Now, I always strongly encourage folks to patronize their local independent garden center first before ordering online. So go ahead and check them first to see if you can find what you're looking for. Now, down below the vegetable section, which you can see is quite long, is the flower section. Same thing applies. I'm going to talk about all of these very quickly in a moment, and I have lists of seed sources for the flowers that we're going to be growing in the garden and out in our landscape this year. The other thing I wanted to show you, if we go back to the guides menu, is the seed starting scheduler. This is something I didn't talk about last week, but what I did is I made 2 different types of schedulers that you can download and print out. And what it does is it helps you time the planting of the seeds that you're going to grow indoors this year first, or you're going to start directly in the garden. So all you have to do is to go to either one of these. In the description above, it explains the difference between them. But here is the seed starting scheduler that I created last year. You put in the type of veggie and variety in this column, how many days it takes to reach maturity, when you need to start them indoors. So what you would do is look at your seed packets, and a lot of times they'll say start indoors 4 weeks before your last frost date. So that's something you're going to need to look at a calendar and plug in that date for that particular seed. And then this column is either for when it's safe to transplant the seeds that you started indoors out into the garden, or the direct sow date. So for example, you always want to start carrots out in the garden. You do not want to start them indoors. And so this is where you would put the date to sow them, the seeds, directly in the garden. And then you can add in some notes to yourself here if you need to. So I just wanted to make sure you are aware of those, because that is how I keep myself on track for the timing of starting seeds indoors or out in the garden. Okay, let's talk about flowers. Cardinal climber is apparently a hummingbird magnet, and I didn't have very good luck growing it a couple of years ago, but I'm going to try it again this year because when I grew them before, it wasn't under the best of circumstances. So that's on the list to help out those hummers. Now I have a photo of this next one because it's an All-America Selections winner. It is Big Duck Yellow Marigold. And I have grown this in my garden for the last few years, and I am crazy about it. It has big yellow flowers. It's a great insect repellent because it's very pungent. It also helps repel certain types of critters in the garden, which is nice. And it just plain looks pretty. The flowers last a really long time, so it's definitely an annual staple. And actually I grow it out in the vegetable garden, I should add. Next up is a type of morning glory called Royal Blue Ensign. And I know a lot of people freak out whenever I mention morning glories because they can be pretty persistent, to put it mildly. However, this one is very petite. It grows just 12 to 18 inches, and the flowers are drop dead gorgeous. So I'm looking forward to seeing them in the garden this year. I'm going to grow a nasturtium called Orchid Cream. I saw it in the Montreal Botanical Garden this fall, and it is really pretty. Next up is a type of Rudbeckia or Gloriosa Daisy. This is Sahara Mix. I have grown them annually for a few years now, and the flower colors are so unusual and beautiful. So we're talking about things like dusty rose, a bright honey yellow, a lovely gold. They always look great. They're so easy to grow. I wish they were a perennial, but I'm very happy to grow them annually. This is Salpiglossus or Painted Tongue, and the variety is Superbissima Blend from Botanical Interests. I have grown this for a few years now, and the flowers are absolutely breathtaking. They look like works of art, so I'm in a rut, but in a good one, because I like to grow them in the garden every year. I have a couple of packets of straw flowers or helichrysum. They are just so cool looking, and then to think that I'm going to have some beautiful, colorful, dried flowers at the end of the season is a bonus. I always grow sunflowers because I like to help out the pollinators and the birds. However, they sure are amazing. So the first variety is Royal Flush. The second is Lemon Queen, and check out the third one, Florenza. So one of my Facebook followers recently recommended it, and I instantly snatched up a packet. Now while we're talking about sunflowers, this is a Mexican sunflower, which is Tithonia. I've decided on Yellow Torch because I thought that was a nice sunny color. I'm also going to grow this Verbena bonariensis vanity again this year. I grew it for the first time last year. It's an All-America Selections winner, and it is the coolest plant ever. So I always was seeing them on British gardening shows, and I thought, I want to grow that too. And so I did. They were very easy to start from seed, and I'm looking forward to having more in the garden this year. Zinnias are always a staple in my garden because A, they're beautiful, B, they're easy to grow, C, they make great cut flowers, and D, the pollinators love them. So I do not have a photo of this one yet because it's the first time I'll be growing it, but the variety is Aztec Sunset. I also wanted to show you a photo of a brand new zinnia called Queenie Lemon Peach. It is an All-America Selections winner, and I am really looking forward to growing them this year. Phew, that took a lot longer than I meant for it to, but I wanted to make sure you knew which vegetables were growing in our garden this year, and also the flowers we're going to grow within the landscape. And you also have the resources you need to schedule yourself so that you plant seeds at the right time. Are you new to seed starting? If so, don't you worry, because next week I'm going to go over the winter sowing method, which is something that doesn't seem like it should work, but it does, and it's very cool. And then the following week, we're going to talk about seed starting indoors. I'm going to tell you everything you need to know so that you will be successful. Thanks so much for watching today, everybody. Happy gardening, and I'll see you next week.